World's second leading crypto network Ethereum splits into two chains. Ethereum saw a chain split as a software bug affected a large quantity of full node clients. However, they didn't notice the updates. Tune in for the most important finance news today by MasterDigest. Eurozone inflation hits decade high as bottlenecks bite. Jump in inflation will test the European Central Bank's readiness to let the economy run hot, says the Wall Street Journal. Driven up by the region's recent economic rebound, August's jump in the Eurozone's harmonized index of consumer prices to 3% from a year earlier was up from 2.2% in July. The rise exceeded the expectations of most economists. Consumer prices have not risen as fast in the 19-country bloc since November 2011, when the ECB had just raised interest rates for the region, the last time it did so. Prices in August increased or were flat year-on-year in every Eurozone country. The highest inflation rates of between 4.5% and 5% were in Estonia, Lithuania, and Belgium. Only 4 Eurozone countries now have inflation below 2%, down from 16 countries in March. The price increases were driven by the economic rebound from the impact of the pandemic, higher energy costs, the reversal of last year's German cut in value-added tax, and bottlenecks in supply chains. They also partly reflect last year's delayed start to summer clothing sales in France and Italy, which were on time this year, meaning prices are higher in comparison. In the past year, energy prices have risen 15.4%, food, alcohol, and tobacco prices climbed 2%, and industrial goods prices increased 2.7%. Core inflation, excluding the more volatile energy, food, alcohol, and tobacco prices, more than doubled. Cryptocurrency prices continue to be in the red in the first days of September. The global cryptocurrency market cap is $2.08 trillion, a 2.02% increase over the last day, while the total crypto market volume over the last 24 hours is $126.25 billion, which makes a 16.43% increase. The volume of all stablecoins is now $97.51 billion, 77.24% of the total crypto market 24-hour volume. Bitcoin's price is currently $46,862.75, and its dominance is currently 42.29%, an increase of 0.88%. There is one more important issue from the beginning of the autumn. World's second leading crypto network Ethereum splits into two chains. Ethereum saw a chain split as a software bug affected a large quantity of full node clients. In mid-August, developers discovered a vulnerability and distributed an update called Hades Gamma to resolve the problem. However, a large number of full node clients did not leverage the patch and the network forked. A number of reports and data from analytical web portals show that the Ethereum blockchain has split into at least two versions, as a number of Geth nodes did not update to the correct chain. Oil prices fell on Thursday after OPEC agreed to keep its policy of gradually returning supply to the market at a time when coronavirus cases around the world are surging and many U.S. refiners, a key source of crude demand, remained offline. Brent crude was down by 16 cents, or 0.2%, at $71.43 a barrel, after dropping 4 cents on Wednesday. U.S. oil fell 23 cents, or 0.3%, to $68.36 a barrel, after rising 9 cents in the previous session. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and other producers including Russia, together known as OPEC+, agreed on Wednesday to continue a policy of phasing out record production reductions by adding 400,000 barrels per day, BPD, each month to the market. However, OPEC raised its demand forecast for 2022 while also facing pressure to accelerate production increases from the Biden administration, which said it was glad the group had reaffirmed its commitment to raising supply. Energy companies were scrambling to restart platforms and pipelines in the Gulf, with about 1.4 million BPD of oil production still offline, the U.S. offshore regulator said, Reuters informs. Coming up next, banking on cannabis, small fin companies to cater the industry. China regulates brutal 996 work culture. Netflix goes for gaming. Special economic zones, SEZs, are reshaping the world economy, yet no one is paying attention, informs Pronomos Capital. SEZs are business parks granted legal autonomy to improve their governance. Companies operating within SEZs enjoy unique tax breaks, streamlined government regulations, special visa rights, and different labor laws. This enables businesses to operate in emerging markets without the usual problems that businesses in the developed world face. Understandably, SEZs have become increasingly popular among emerging market investors. In 1979, there were 200 SEZs. Now, there are more than 12,000. Governments are spending ever larger amounts of money on SEZs in an attempt to cash in. The Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund plans to invest $500 billion USD in NEOM, a planned city-sized SEZ. China plans on spending $2 trillion USD on its Belt and Road Initiative, which includes several hundred overseas SEZs. Less famously, Colombia similarly used SEZs to reinvent its economy. Now, SEZs account for 35% of Colombia's foreign direct investment. Even North Korea is starting to implement SEZs to revitalize its economy. There, South Korean companies in Pyongyang's economic zone generate more than $2 billion USD in economic activity per year in North Korea, and pay significantly higher wages than the rest of the country. South Korean economists surmise that North Korean SEZs are a critical part of the continued survival of the regime. It is impossible to know which emerging market will rise to prominence next, but one thing is for certain: the next great economic success story will include SEZs. Banking on cannabis, there's a new network of lenders for a semi-legal industry, informs Financial Times. Still illegal at the federal level, the industry has to pay high fees for financial services from less well-known firms. Hashish firms are caught in a niche between state and federal regulation. Regardless of California making weed legal for leisure use in 2016, the federal authorities nonetheless classifies marijuana as an unlawful substance. With high U.S. banks resembling JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo and funds firms together with Visa and MasterCard adhering to federal regulation, they've opted out of serving cannabis companies. This is despite the lack of meaningful progress at the federal level to bridge the gap with state law. Instead, the relief has largely come thanks to a small group of financial companies that have emerged to cater to the cannabis industry. Since 2012, 18 states, and Washington, D.C., have legalized hashish for leisure use and 36 allow smoking it for medical causes, in line with the nationwide convention of state legislatures. Business tracker New Frontier Knowledge estimates the marketplace for authorized hashish was priced about $20 BN in gross sales in 2020 and predicts it'll greater than double by 2025 to $41.5 BN. With numbers like that, cannabis can make a credible claim to be the largest sub-based industry in the United States. China steps in to regulate brutal 996 work culture. So-called 996 work culture is where people work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. Now, China's authorities have issued a stern reminder to companies that such punishing work schedules are in fact illegal. In a joint statement published last Thursday, China's top court and labor ministry detailed 10 court decisions related to labor disputes, many involving workers being forced to work overtime. The cases covered various scenarios across a wide range of sectors, from tech to the media and construction. According to China's labor laws, a standard workday is 8 hours long, with a maximum of 44 hours a week. Any work beyond that requires extra pay for overtime. But this has not been well enforced. In many of the country's biggest firms, particularly in the thriving tech sector, employees often work far longer hours and are not always compensated. Japan's got a huge army of underemployed ex-housewives. There are plenty of smart, educated women in Japan who could be driving the country out of its current economic slump to a stunning pandemic recovery. But the country's rigid hiring system and male-dominated leadership remain a huge hurdle, blocking women from the best-paid jobs. The country risks becoming a nation of bored housewives with university degrees, warn critics, BBC informs. Japan's own deadline to significantly increase the number of women in leadership roles by 2020 quietly came and went at the end of last year without even getting close to its target. Known as Womenomics and announced with great fanfare, Shinzo Abe's policy to create a Japan in which women can shine has largely failed. And not just because of COVID-19. Today, there is just one woman for every 10 men in parliament, while fewer than 15% of senior private sector roles are held by women, half the original 2020 goal. Critics believe his policy had little to do with creating social change, allowing women to flourish at work, and more to do with an acute need for workers. Japan's working-age population has been rapidly shrinking since the 1990s. For decades, about 60% of women quit paid work after their first child. But as the Womenomics policy was brought in, mothers were already starting to return to work as their family incomes dwindled. But there were no financial incentives or penalties for failing to take action. Consequently, many women are stuck in part-time or dead-end roles. On average, a Japanese woman's income is over 40% lower than that of a man, says the World Economic Forum, quoted by BBC. The video game business will be harder for Netflix than streaming. Service may need to reinvent itself as people become unglued to their couches and streaming competition from the likes of Disney and Amazon heats up. Just Tuesday, Netflix reported a third-quarter new subscriber forecast that fell 2.3 million below Wall Street's expectations. The streaming giant also confirmed that it's diving deeper into one of the hottest entertainment markets around, video games. That confirmation follows news that Netflix hired EA and Oculus veteran Mike Verdu as its new president of game development. Netflix's foray into gaming will focus on mobile games. The company already has 2 titles with its Stranger Things games, but those weren't available through Netflix, and instead launched on the PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, as well as mobile devices. It's unclear how building games outside of the Netflix app will benefit Netflix itself. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please like and consider subscribing. Also, share this video with your friends if you feel so, and please, put your opinion down in the comments. If you want to know more about the finance, please, check the links below.